The relationship between a mother and a child is a highly regarded, respected, and sacred union that is seen time and time again through the many aspects of the Buddhist religion. Buddhism compares our development to that of animals. Immediately from conception, we are born on survival and entirely dependent on the mother. In fact, the Dalai Lama addresses breastfeeding as the first happy and joyous experience in each and every human being's life. If there's one thread every individual shares in the fabric of the human experience, is that we all come from one, the mother. Despite the fact that the child has no form of understanding the complex relationship between mother and child, or even who the mother actually is, there is an immediate sense of trust for the baby and for the mother, an overwhelming joy from being a caretaker. Buddhism tells us that at the start of life, when the baby is developing in the womb, there is no separation of the mother and the child. They are united as one. In a literal sense, there is no separation, for they are physically connected through an umbilical cord. But in a psychological sense, there is no separation because human beings are not born with an actual sense of self. Additionally, throughout the 9 months of conception, the baby is entirely reliant on the mother. Without her eating correctly, abstaining from drugs, truly taking care of her body, the baby does not survive. As such, the mother plays a key role in the future adult life of her child, for the mother is the first human experience the child knows. If a child cannot trust his very life source, how are they to trust any other life source in this world, including other humans? It is not until the child grows that it begins developing a sense of self, and thus a sense of separateness and individual identity. We are not born with a sense of self, and Buddhist psychology acknowledges this. The more time passes, the more we construct a separate sense of self. Like a leaf falling from a tree, the child separates from the mother as a natural process. Without this process, how would a child endure the death of a parent? A sense of individuality is developed over time. Psychology teaches us the very basics that humans are social creatures that crave acceptance, care, affection, and interaction among other necessities. The knowledge that someone cares about your life, that they do not want you to die, is a very powerful thing, first and foremost expressed by the mother. Buddhist psychology states that children who are born into a loving home and receive maximum care or affection from parents, especially the mother, have far more stable emotions and in turn live a much happier, more secure life. Childhood is the period during an individual's lifespan when the most change occurs. We're not born with an idea of what the world is, what experiences may be ahead of us. From birth to childhood, every experience shapes our view of the world, our future interactions, relationships, and overall quality of life. In the video, the Dalai Lama recalls visiting an orphanage where the children are unwanted and know it. They live a terrible life filled with abuse and abandonment at a very early age. This lack of affection, of feeling needed or purposeful, is something a child holds on to for life and can cause serious problems, both physically and psychologically. However, Buddhist psychology believes that enough love and affection can change an angry child or a resentful adult. People can become different if important aspects of their life change also, such as receiving an abundance of love in place of none. This capacity for change is known as plasticity. The Dalai states that he believes foster parents can become real parents to the child and stop or turn around the negative course of their development. This is also reflected in Rutter's child and adolescent psychiatry when he discovered in the early 1980s that somber babies living in understaffed orphanages often became cheerful and affectionate when placed in socially stimulating adoptive homes. It is our nature as human beings to receive and give affection. It is the negative experiences through relationships and life that we endure which cause us to drift away from this natural state. For instance, the Dalai shares his own case of growing up in a poor and uneducated family, yet one that was abundant in love and compassion. Compassion, he states, is key in development. Children need to be shown concern for them and for everyone around them. Children must witness and feel compassion and kindness at an early age to be psychologically healthy human beings. He describes compassion as the seed that comes from the mother. Much like the phrase, you reap what you sow. During childhood development, the parents reap and the children sow. When a child develops feeling needed and wanted, shown care, love, and affection to, he or she develops a compassionate heart, and with this comes the ability to understand human experiences and people at a very deep level, even during the most difficult times. The ability to connect with human beings, resonate, and share an experience together is what connects us and allows us to feel understood. This ability, which should come naturally, unfortunately does not. It is an ability that is developed first and foremost through the relationship between a mother and a child, and eventually a parent and a child. This ability allows us to feel less fear in our adult life, and as such, a deeper understanding of individuality, of the self. Buddhist psychology believes that happiness, friendship, communication, compassion are all basic intrinsic human values. When these values are met and in alignment with one's actions, happiness ensues. It is evident that feeling loved allows one to share love, and being able to connect with fellow human beings is what allows us to feel normal in a society. Imagine this. Most children have a normal upbringing, and as a result, most adults live pleasantly normal lives. But if you do not know what it is like to feel loved, wanted, sharing in an experience with those around you, you feel like you are missing out on something. You feel as if you are lacking something special that everyone else has or has had, and you never even in the slightest fashion had a taste for. Naturally, this makes an individual feel like an outcast, like they are not even evolved enough to be normal parts of a normal society. Children who do not develop normally and develop with a lack for compassion turn out to become adults who live in constant fear and constant anger. As Adali states, these adults are described as closed doors and impossible to communicate with, even in the most basic sense. Lack of compassion during childhood leads to an adult life plagued with the feeling of distance. Distance results in a lack of communication and a sense of loneliness. Buddhist psychology aligns well with Carl Rogers' theory, which states that the most important childhood experience is to be loved, wholly and unconditionally. Orphan children do not feel loved and are often far too young to understand the complexity of abandonment and that it is not their fault. They cannot process why their lives are so different, unless, of course, they do not know a different life and have no means of comparison. As humans, all we want is to be loved for who we really are, our real selves. When a child feels entirely loved for who they are, without hesitations or excuses, they develop a positive self-esteem and a positive sense of self, where they feel purposeful, needed, important, and wanted. Without compassion, love, and affection during early stages of childhood, there is no solid foundation for self-esteem, and there is no solid foundation for building a sense of self. This lack of basic human ingredient results in a troublesome adult life, and in the most basic sense, loneliness and sadness. In the gravest sense, this opens the gates for an endless list of negative human capabilities, including the development of psychopathic personalities, whose behavior is antisocial, often criminal, and who lack a sense of moral responsibility or social conscience. In conclusion, psychology teaches us that love and feeling wanted is essential to a healthy adult life and cannot be separated. The relationship between love as a child and an empathetic adult personality is parallel.